You're listening to the RMPodcast, the official podcast of Red Moon Productions. Here are your hosts, Brandon Davidson, Keith Cheatham, and Sean Sebastian. Enjoy.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Red Moon Podcast. I am one of your hosts, Brandon Davidson, alongside our normal new host,
Sean Sebastian
and
Keith Cheatham.
Lighten it up one last time, guys. Compassion for the COVID green. Everything seems to be opening back up. Next week we are going to be back to normal here on the Red Moon Podcast. That's right.
Well,
we are going to be going
as
back
normal
to
as we can be.
Well, we're never really truly normal.
Right.
That's never. That's never.
To be honest, though, the Corona pandemic didn't really change much about our show anyway, other than the lighting up green. So.
I mean, we've been conscious of it as we've stated. Yeah, week to week, we've obviously, but we've wanted to be here for everybody and with everybody throughout the pandemic. But thankfully, things are opening back up. Seems like soon things are getting back to normal. But we're still trucking along. In fact, we've got two big events next week. Yeah. Looking over at you, Sean. Yeah. Because you know what's coming, don't you?
No.
No?
Were you going to surprise us again?
I think we're both going to be surprised. What are you talking about?
Oh! Birthdays.
Oh, birthdays.
See, I don't consider my own birthday a big event either.
Me neither.
Yeah. Well, typically
After
I don't.
30,
But Brandon's,
Well, that's the
Brandon's narcissistic, so
Yeah.
I'm sure he does.
Well, here's the thing. For the first time ever, I don't think I've ever done a show like on my birthday.
I was
Oh, yeah?
actually
So
on.
it's
I didn't
on,
look at the
it's
dates.
on my birthday, which
Nice.
is it's odd. It's like I don't know how to feel about this.
Yeah.
So Sean and then Sean will be just the day right after.
Yeah.
June 3rd.
Mm-hmm.
So it's gonna be a good week, I think.
I hope so.
hope. We can only hope.
We shall see.
You know what would be good?
What would be good?
If we could actually watch a decent movie, okay?
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Hey, I watched a decent movie.
Well, yeah. You watched two. One was decent. The other one, which we're happening to review, was not. And I have to say, so far, we're split right now. The early reviews, we're on number 6 now of the Best Picture winners,
We've had a
starting
few
with the very original.
Yeah.
And we're split down the middle, 3 and 3. 3 good, 3 bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I mean, it's kind of it's odd because we've always harkened back thinking that the early days of
golden
Hollywood,
age of Hollywood was just perfect, but
yeah,
it was not.
It wasn't.
It's one thing. Like I said, which you'll hear, man, can't talk today. One thing I just thought was funny though is like we talk about today how the Academy like sometimes has an agenda or pushes movies based off of things that they think promote what they want, and it's like that's always been the case apparently because some movies clearly were more worthy than others, and I felt like this was the case with the current movie we're reviewing, Cavalcade. While 1933's Cavalcade was the 6th film to win Best Picture, it fails to cement its place in history, and while praised at the time, became almost immediately forgettable in years since. Directed by Frank Lloyd, who would go on to direct future Oscar nominees and winners, Cavalcade was far from deserving this accolade. Beginning on New Year's Eve, 1899, and ending New Year's Day, 1933, the story covers the span of years as it follows 3 interconnected families as their lives are impacted from multiple historical events throughout this period. The movie sought to be an epic much in the vein of Cimarron, and fails much in the same vein as Cimarron 2. How does a film so bad get Best Picture winner? Unlike some of the other previous Best Picture winners which failed to impress, Cavalcade doesn't have much to offer. While other winners weren't the best films, they did offer revolutions to the industry that changed filmmaking as it was known. By 1933, however, we had seen plenty of high-caliber films which still hold up to this day. The movie's pacing is slow and dull, and none of the characters memorable or relatable. As the film goes on, in each historic event, from the Second British Boer War to the sinking of the Titanic in World War I, has a prominent impact upon the characters in the film, but each event, while bringing new tragedies to the families involved, carries little to no emotional resonance. Characters state how tragic these things have been, but you never get a real sense of sorrow and pain, and nothing close to believability involving these historic moments impact. Just as forgettable as the plot and characters are the actors portraying said characters. While the acting isn't as over the top as early films, it's not subtle either. More often than not, the cast say their lines as if reciting lines committed to memory rather than encompassing the character and creating a believable persona. With no emotional drive, no characters worth rooting for or following, and a 2-hour runtime that drags through each event forcefully beating you over the head and screaming, "This is important because the characters say so," the film might just be the hardest Best Picture winner to sit through. Cavalcade is competently made, and that's about it. There's nothing special in the film and nothing remotely memorable, which is its greatest sin as Best Picture winner. The whole thing is just a relentless tirade of one event happening after another, with little to connect the overarching plot into a comprehensible narrative. With better competition for Best Picture and other timeless classics that released in the same year, Cavalcade doesn't hold up in any way. I give Cavalcade 2 out of 4 stars.
Oh, 2 out of 4 stars for good old Cavalcade. Sean, I must say, you were spared.
I was.
You were spared, my friend.
I did not get time to watch this film, but I read a lot about the film and just some of the reviews, which is kind of a mixed bag, and that's what I wanted to kind of talk to you about. This movie was received very well
back then,
but over the years, as I stated on Great Day Live, it has the reviews have fallen off, and it seems like some of the more recent reviews are very
not good.
Yeah, they're just not good. A lot of them are actually, if you go on IMDb and look at some of their user reviews, there's several of them that are titled "not deserving of an Academy Award." Like it's crazy.
Generally, I would scold you for not having watched the film.
I know.
I know.
But because we do it to Brandon all the time, me and you.
We do.
Yeah.
Which is weird. It's been a strange occurrence that I've actually watched these.
Well,
now I can in my
quarantined.
comfort of my own home.
Yeah.
But I'll have to say I can't scold you this time because you didn't miss anything worth watching.
That's what I've read.
It's as the review was playing, we were talking about the movie poster and how it paints it as this great epic that is like this generational film that like
an
achievement.
It was not an achievement in anything.
Titanic in all its power.
Yes, it didn't do anything that movies before it hadn't have done or couldn't have done. It didn't do anything revolutionary for the time.
No, it didn't.
It was not as well acted as movies even back then were. Its story was not compelling. Like I said in my review, it was just a bunch of like historic moments and how they impacted this family, but it didn't really interconnect well. It was just like beating you over the head with event after event, like, oh, this is tragic. Look what happened to this family. But none of them even they would be like, oh, that was sad what happened. It's like, well, I'm glad you all are sad about it.
Yeah, well, and I think that was, again, the same problem that Cimarron had with this jumping multiple decades and starting with the turn of the century and, of course, this beautiful couple having the hope and of the future and what it's to bring, and then, of course, all these tragic events. And I understand, yes, you look at the early 1900s, and honestly, it was not until you get to the true golden age of Hollywood in 1950s, past the war. I mean, we have a huge
maybe
rough
before
start.
that. You got Gone with the Wind in 1940.
Well, but I'm saying, like, in terms of world history.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
You're talking about a lot of crap that went down in the early part of the century, and really is not until after we come back that we focus on, that we actually see more, I think, poured into the productions.
Or grounded films about those same historic events.
Well, and that's what made Grand Hotel last week that we reviewed so unique and different for its time. But I think with this one, the same shortfall that it has in the sense that it tries to tell too much and tries to focus too much on the characters of the film, or actually these set pieces in history.
Well, there's really
that
too many
serve
characters.
there is. There's too many characters, and with the backdrop of the historical events trying to serve as the filler to give you reasons for caring about these people. It's like, no, if I don't care about I'm not giving JC credit, but it's like at least you have a whole film spent with characters on the Titanic before it actually sank, that you care about these people, versus this one where it's just as a setting backdrop, like, oh yeah, we're going to use this tragic event.
Well, you don't
and then
know
somehow we're going to care about these people.
Exactly. You don't really know anything or ever learn anything about this family other than they keep going through all these horrible events that pretty much keep ticking them off one by one.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's funny that this movie during its time, like heavily like publicized like the Titanic as being an important part of this film.
Right, that's what I read.
And it's like literally like a 2-minute scene that has like, I mean, yes, it's important in the fact that like a tragic event happens to that family again, like their son and wife were on the Titanic when it sank. But
it's like, no,
but other than that, it like literally it shows them, and then it pans away and shows like the lifeboat that says Titanic, and then the next scene is the family talking about how tragic that was, and it's like I don't get a sense of how
like
tragic
the
it
people
was.
in the theater were they seeing this and just going, oh.
Yeah,
they were on the Titanic.
Well, I bet
like it really hitting them because it doesn't.
I think
sound like it hits at all.
I think they're trying that, but I also think there's one other issue I had with the film is they're trying to use, I guess, new technology or at least trying to use new techniques in film at the time to try to make it seem much more, personal. Well, and one instance in that is there's several montages to show passing of time, and a lot of times, like you said, Keith, they show this cavalcade in the background, and then you see juxtaposed over the top of that, half dissolved like people falling in war, and then you see women who you're supposed to be connected to singing and dancing back, at home, and it just there's this. What I called it on Great Day was a cacophony of confusion, and that's exactly what I felt. You have like war sounds with music over the top of it, actual score. It just does not add up at all.
But do you feel like at the time that was considered to be like this artistic
what I was going to say
achievement?
For at the time, I think part of it is a lot of the historical events in this movie were more fresh, like the Titanic and World War I. Those are events that had happened a little bit more recently. So for them to not really show much of it in the film, I could see audiences back then being like, oh, I remember that happening. That is sad. But then as the years go on, that's why this movie isn't timeless, because as the years goes on and people who don't have that knowledge can't relate to it. And a good movie would be able to be relatable for the people that it happened to back then and people today.
Which is what we see a lot, I think, now with some movies like Saving Private Ryan,
1917,
Schindler's List, 1917. When you have these movies set in a backdrop that have an emotional story to compel you,
even
through caring.
Forrest Gump. That's another good example of a movie that you follow a character through a series of events in history.
Yes,
but they give you enough about Forrest Gump that you actually care about the fact that this guy kind of walked in and out of history.
I'm really glad you brought that up, because the truth is that Forrest Gump is the only movie so far, which I know we've only reviewed 6 Best Pictures,
right?
But it's the only one that I have seen that has it skips several decades, or not skips. It goes. It takes you through several decades.
It has the same story beat as Cimarron and Cavalcade in the sense that it shows multiple events through history, but it does it so much better than either of the movies. And it's kind of weird to think, like, how many movies did Hollywood make like this, and how many of them won Best Picture before they were actually good, like Forrest Gump? Is Forrest Gump the first time they've done that type of story beat?
Well, and I think think about it. The one thing that Forrest Gump does right is it sticks to one character.
Yeah.
And it shows his journey from little boy all the way up, not trying to just showcase this multi-generational family with all these different characters that don't have their time.
At some point,
you don't connect with them.
Yeah, at some point you have too much going on. It's like you can't showcase 10 different characters and 5 different events throughout history. That's too much to fit into a 2-hour film.
Yeah. Well, another thing it seems to me is just with some of these earlier films that we've been reviewing, a lot of them almost piggyback off one another. You have Cimarron, you have this movie that spans 40-something years or whatever, and then the very next year you have this movie. And then before that you had the
All Quiet?
No, not All Quiet.
Wings or Broadway Melody.
Melody, and we mentioned how when that movie came out, one of the trivia things we found were that there were 75 other movies just like it that were released in the same year. And it's almost like back then they felt like, oh wow, that's a great idea, let's do that. Let's do the same thing.
It's kind of what we're going to get blamed for with the Marvel Cinematic Universe. You're going to get blamed. We're going to get blamed for having superhero films galore. But the difference is that
always done that. Look, when Lord of the Rings came out, they kept making medieval style movies.
Medieval fantasies. Exactly. They knew it was popular, and it's like, look, when I don't have a problem with those being made and catching on to. I mean, because again, you're going to a theater, you want to escape, but even then, these types of movies that are supposed to be heartwarming and touching to show you the tragedies of what one can go through in life. I mean, that's really the summation of the film. That's what what it all comes down to is, hey, these two survived, but this is all the pangs that they've seen from their generation. Yet at the same time, it's like it doesn't do it in an effective manner to really sink in and make me feel like it was worth telling.
And to me, I think that's the biggest thing that bugs me is that, yes, like mentioning with like Lord of the Rings and the superhero movies is like, yeah, you have copycats, but generally those copycats and bad movies aren't going to be the Best Picture winners anyways.
Yeah.
The fact that this won Best Picture should mean it should have been like The Return of the King, the one that started the trend. And it's not the one that started the trend. It took up the trend and is nowhere near as good as half the movies that came out that year.
Well, and that's what that was going to be my next point is, for one, I gave this 1.5 stars.
I gave it 2.
I absolutely thought this was boring from start to finish. But considering this came out, now granted, even though we aired it on Quarantine Drive-In, I did not get a chance to watch A Farewell to Arms. Yeah. But with that movie having a lot more reviews and people who stand by it saying this is definitely
I watched it, and it was definitely better. It's not... It has its own, I would give that one 3. It still has its own share of problems, but the story's much better, which granted it's based off of a Hemingway novel, but the story's much better, the acting's much better. The romance, it was actually fair. I mean, there's some cheesy parts, but I mean, it was much more believable than anything in this movie.
Well, weren't there other films that came out that year
as well? Sean mentioned
Kong.
King Kong.
I looked that up. It came out the week before this movie.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
consider that.
So King Kong came out a week before Cavalcade, but Cavalcade won Best Picture, and it's nowhere near as good.
I guess people just weren't ready for a giant monkey back then.
Maybe
Probably not.
But I mean, even the acting, the special effects, everything in King Kong was better than Cavalcade. I looked up the first sound adaptation of Little Women, which was nominated for Best Picture and Best Director, was up against Cavalcade. It lost. Lady for a Day. I might be butchering that name.
I think that's it.
That Frank Capra, who I love. I've seen many of his movies, and I didn't realize that he made that, and it was up against Cavalcade. It lost. So it's like when you have actual people whose reputation, even today, is known that they were solid filmmakers, and these films are solid films, all up against Cavalcade that nobody even knows.
Right, and I honestly think... Oh, no, you go ahead, Sean.
I was just going to say, it's like you mentioned before, we look at some of these newer Best Picture winners, and we're kind of like, oh, that movie had an agenda, that's why it won over something much better. And you mentioned that that's not something that's new, that's been going on, and it kind of...
It might have been the case
all
along.
That it's just like, what was it about this movie that stood out to people so much that they awarded it the best award you can get over some of these other films.
And I think even some of the Tinseltown trivia facts that we gave about it being, primarily set in Britain.
Yeah.
Them going through, I guess, those two huge events in history, but it also being primarily the director wanted to hire mainly British cast.
British and Irish
and
cast,
so I think British and Irish cast members, it's like, not to say that, they were giving them, just a hand-me-down or a trophy for that case, but it's like, I wonder if, that sunk into, let's reward the efforts of those who are not just only in the Hollywood elite. And it's like, even back then there was this, this is all theory, this is not true by any means, but I do think, to me, especially what this movie proves, is just like what we've seen in the recent years of the Academy getting it wrong, or what we claim they've gotten it wrong, and that is that time tells. Time will tell. The timeless classics always stand out above the fray. And for me, like you were saying, it took years for those other people who are household names now, who are known for such better works. It's no coincidence that they ended up getting the fame down the road, because they continued to make hit after hit after hit.
Because their films did stand the test of time. Yeah.
And so I really do think that ultimately is that's not the trend we're seeing, but the fact that we're split now 3-3, 3 movies that absolutely deserved it, 3 others that have been so with winning Best Picture because it may have been the popular trend at that time. That's pretty telling.
Yeah.
So who knows? We're gonna continue on, because until July we really don't have any other movies that are releasing.
And so what's up next?
Though the next one, I was gonna say, the next one I'm very interested in. It's when Frank Capra finally got his
due. Okay, just a year later.
It happened one night is the next film.
Okay, yes, I've heard of this one.
Yeah, and it's I want to say I don't know. It's not Gary Cooper. I'll have to look that up. But Frank Capra directed it. And again, he was one of my favorite classic directors. He did It's a Wonderful Life. Mr. D comes to town. Mr. Smith goes to Washington. Kind of funny how they have similar names. He did Arsenic and Old Lace, which is a tremendous comedy. But yeah, he came out with It Happened One Night, which won the 7th Academy Awards Best Picture. And it starred Clark Gable. That's who it was. I wanted to say, for some reason, I wanted to say Gary Cooper, and I knew that was not right at all.
But it was
Clark
a big
Gable,
name, though.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's going to be the next one, and I am very interested in that. Hopefully, it'll prove to be much better than this one, but we don't know yet.
We'll find out soon. We'll see if the Academy can win us over and hit a streak. We will see. But for now,
I haven't seen this one. I haven't seen this one, but I haven't been disappointed by a Capra film yet. So
we'll see. We'll see. All right, guys. I think we're going to move into headline territory this week. We got 3 major ones. Probably going to hit on one more than the others. But the first one was kind of news to everybody. It was interesting. So this past week, I think it was this past week, Back to the Future Part 2.
Oh yeah.
Well, Back to the Future, Back to the Future Part 2.
Yep.
Actually, it's been since the beginning of the month, I think. I think it came back on Netflix.
They've been on Netflix for a couple weeks.
It's been on Netflix,
Okay.
but I don't think the controversy was really in full
Not till
swing
this past
or known
week.
until this past week. Yeah.
So it's interesting that obviously everybody was blaming Netflix because there was a scene that was – there were actually multiple scenes that were edited, but one where you could easily tell that an edit had taken place where Marty McFly is looking at a scandalous magazine.
Yeah, it's a nudie mag.
It's a nudie mag.
In the actual film, it shows the cover of the magazine.
It's actually Biff that's looking at the magazine, isn't it?
Oh, no, it's Marty.
Yeah, Marty runs in there and he looks
It was
at
Biff's
Oh, okay.
magazine.
It's Biff's
He's
magazine,
looking for
though.
the almanac,
Yeah.
which was slid
Right, but he had
inside
the cover, yeah.
Okay.
Right. But continue, Keith.
But anyways, yeah, he has the magazine because he's looking for the sports almanac in the movie. And when he pulls the cover off, he finds out, oh no, it's a nudie mag, not the almanac. And you actually see the cover of the mag, which doesn't show a naked woman in the film. It's just a woman in like a bikini or something like that. But on the Netflix version, that was cut out, like the cover. It goes from him holding the magazine to a cut of him like walking off or whatever. And it's a bad cut. You could tell that like that definitely isn't him just sitting there. And then all of a sudden he's like turning around. And people were livid, rightfully so, because I mean, Disney Plus is one thing that's been a lot of people mad because Disney
Netflix
keeps editing
doesn't have anything.
But Netflix, like they have no reason to be editing any films.
But see, that was the question. So the real question is did Netflix do it? Well, it came out that no, they did not. It was the file they were given from Universal. Universal made the edit. They came clean. The file has been restored to its original version. But it does bring up the question should studios re-edit films in order to, I guess, subvert controversy or change it to their liking based on whatever culture should be saying at that time?
That's like saying the Mona Lisa should have blue eyes, so let's go back and change it.
Well,
Like, I mean, it's a work of art. It's a creation. It has been created.
Yep.
Leave it alone.
Yeah.
I don't even like when they edit things for television.
Yeah.
Yes,
When they take some of the, and I understand, yes, language, there's a barrier with television. It's
nudity,
that
stuff like that.
barrier has fallen down, in recent years. But still, it's like if you're going to change a word that makes the scene to darn or something ridiculous. What was the one you use an example of all the time?
Tremors is I just use it because it's a terrible edit, and he takes out the word ass.
Yeah,
and they say please move your butt,
and
it's
just like
edit.
To me, I understand like some people have a problem with language in films and things like that, but to me, sometimes the language makes the scene.
Yes.
It is so for Tarantino movies for sure. Like there's things that are
said if they tried
that
to
I'm
show
just like
a butchered version of edited like Pulp Fiction.
Oh
yes,
they did Kill Bill.
It is
That's
the
where you get
gangster talk that makes that movie so resonant and makes the dialogue so good. And for them to change that for TV, I kind of understand, but even then, it still bothers me.
Yeah, I agree.
But to go back and change a film,
there's no
like
excuse on a streaming service.
No.
And my thing is, first of all, Netflix doesn't have an age rate. Like Disney Plus, I understand, is supposed to be for the family, even though I don't agree with them editing stuff either.
Agreed.
But Netflix is just, you pay for the subscription. They have a kids section for kids. It's like what the movie on there should be.
Its rating says what it's rated.
And to be fair, Netflix didn't edit it, so I mean, it's not their fault that they were given a.
But it's like, why did Universal?
But yeah,
what was the point? I mean, it honestly is the most minuscule thing. It's not like hell, even an Airplane, which is a movie rated PG, you see breasts
Yeah.
like flopping on screen, and it's like I mean I would think that if they put that on Netflix, the studio would probably edit that.
The Jive Talk scene.
Yeah.
Like, that could be, today, that could be considered racist.
Well, okay,
Yeah.
here's a perfect example, because it was on Netflix. It might still be, and I love the movie, but Blazing Saddles.
Oh,
and
yeah.
today's day and age, that
Yeah.
movie could not be made
How did
today.
that not get edited?
And it's like, you can,
Well,
but that's the thing. Like, you shouldn't, censorship, I understand, like, you make something new, you don't want something in it, then you don't put it in your movie. But you don't go back and change the past, like you said. That's like somebody changing a work of art or changing something. I mean, that's not. And one thing Warner Brothers does that I love with Looney Tunes is they have that statement saying, this reflects the sensibilities of the past. They weren't okay then. They're not okay now. But it was what it was.
Right.
And they give you that warning,
Honestly,
but they don't edit anything.
And that's honestly what I think Disney Plus needs to do.
Yes.
Disney Plus, I think, is doing too much rewriting of history.
Yeah.
And I think so much of them wanting to be caught up in, and that's what I think is odd, is that they're wanting to sit here and subvert these ideas that, oh, no, we don't have those ideas. We don't have that kind of, content on our streaming service. But it's like, what content do you have today that could maybe reflect something controversial 50 years from now?
Yeah.
Well, that's what.
And it's like, are you going to go back and change it then? It's
Yeah.
like, why are you I like the way you put it, Sean. It's art. It is what it is, whether you agree with it or not. It is a statement. And if anybody agreed with it being exposed and people have been
That's no
exposed to
different
it,
than the statues in Louisville. Leave them alone.
just let them be.
All of that stuff. But I mean, even to me as a Christian, there's things in newer Disney movies that are coming out that I've read about that I'm just kind of like, those are there's things that are going to be featured in this movie that are kind of offensive to me, but that doesn't mean I think that they should change it or edit it. But it's like, if you're worried about offending this group of people enough to cut that out, then why are you not worried about offending this group of people? And I don't think you can pick and choose.
Well, and you shouldn't.
I don't think you can pick and choose who you're willing to offend and who you're not willing to offend. Just make the movie the way the writers and the directors and the filmmakers want
it's
it.
No different than if they were to take all the nude paintings from the past and start painting clothes on them.
Yeah.
Because it's like, no, you don't do that.
Right.
And it is. It's sad to think that, well, this might offend somebody, even though it's a harmless scene that doesn't even show
Now, here's the
anything.
only time that I would be okay with it, and it's a strict, to me, I don't know.
I want to hear.
For me, the only time I'd be okay with it is if the actual creator of the piece of art wants to go back. And here's the reason why.
So you're saying George Lucas's special editions are okay?
No, I'm not saying they're okay. They're absolute garbage.
Yeah, but he didn't censor even his own work.
No, he just
But
added
and that's what I'm
stupid crap.
saying.
Stupid
Like
crap,
exactly. Let him be judged for the shit he makes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
It's crap. It's garbage. But at the end of the day, it's his creation. He is the artist. He can change it to whatever he wants. If the purists and the other people who love it don't like it, then you can judge accordingly. But at the end of the day, if it is yours, like, look,
Can I make one amendment?
Universal owns the movie, though.
Well, no, okay, here's the
Yeah, but
difference.
Robert Zemeckis made it.
Exactly.
I know
and
that,
if they
but-
consulted Robert Zemeckis and Robert Zemeckis said, yes, that's an edit I want to see, then I'd be fine with it
Yeah.
because he
Can I
approved
make
it.
one amendment to that, though? I would
Yeah.
agree with that as long as the original version is still available to watch. Because, see, what George Lucas did was make the new version and then make sure that the original was never released again.
True.
And I feel like that's, if you as the creator think like you need to tweak something, that's fine. But at least let people watch the original.
I mean, I agree, but again,
George Lucas himself used to advocate for that until he decided he wanted to change his own stuff. and
well,
then
here's
changed
the
his
funny
mind.
thing. Here's the funny thing. He wouldn't have an issue with doing that if the studios themselves said, no, George, we understand you're the creator. You can create this version, but we're also going to allow this too. But the fact is Lucasfilm, obviously in conjunction with, I guess, why I don't know why I'm drawing a blank on who distributed Star Wars
did.
Fox.
Yeah.
So it's like with 20th Century Fox saying they could have had the power to stand up and say, no, George, we're also going to have the original versions for release as well.
Yeah.
That you don't have the creative power. But I think Fox was bending to his will because they thought this is what he wants and everybody cherishes his creation.
Yeah.
Who are we to say that George is wrong? And because at the end of the day, I know
A lot of people.
Yeah.
I know. It's so funny.
Just
to
for
think about.
money-making purposes, I don't understand it. If you've got two versions of a movie, that's twice the amount of money you're going to
Exactly.
make. Like, why would you not?
Why would you?
I don't understand.
And that's why even Disney Disney, the only reason they're not putting out the originals of Star Wars is on principle to please George Lucas. But they don't care about screwing over other people who made films that they say are, oh, this is intolerant of our views today.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because that was 60, 70 years ago.
Yeah.
But there's going to be 60, 70 years from now that views could depict something different than what you're willing to show or put up on your streaming service. So instead of trying to retell history, let it stand, let it exist, and let the viewer have the right to choose what they pick from it.
I agree.
I just think that's
you're mentioning
ridiculous.
retelling history, and this actually goes into one of our other topics. But
Yeah, that's what I was
someone is
thinking
trying
too.
to retell some history here. The Zack Snyder cut is now officially
gosh.
happening.
Explain to our viewers though what movie.
The
Justice League.
Sorry,
Yeah.
people have been just advocating for this forever.
Yes.
People have been online trying to get Warner Brothers to allow him to make his cut. So with HBO Max now coming out tomorrow, actually, they have said we're going to allow Zack Snyder to finally make the Snyder cut for HBO Max specifically,
Right.
So,
though it won't come out till next year.
It's next May. Are y'all looking forward to it?
I do want to see it.
Well, yeah.
Not because I think it's going to be
To
good.
make fun of it, yeah.
But I really... Here's my
To me,
thing.
that's the brilliance of it, and that's what I love. Is it's like I don't care if it's bad or good. People have been clamoring for this.
Oh, yes.
And Snyder himself has jumped on the bandwagon. And granted, for one, nobody has given Whedon enough credit. Whedon stepped in to do a favor, and then not only that, he's also shut up during this entire time.
Yeah.
And he's not said a word, and that shows him class.
Well,
and I'm not saying Snyder's trying to crap
take directing
on him.
credit, did he?
No, Snyder.
No,
he gave Snyder
yeah, he
directing
gave
credit.
Snyder
Yeah.
had the directing credit.
Yeah.
And it's funny because all the people who have been like, we need the Snyder cut, I've also been bashing Joss Whedon, and I'm like, why bash Joss Whedon? It's not his fault that movie was crap.
No.
Yeah.
He came in and he did some pickups and such, but I mean, he didn't make that whole movie. He just tried to salvage
If
the
anything,
garbage that was already there.
you give him the benefit of the doubt, and you just say whether you think it was garbage before or after. It's like you just got to give the man credit for saying, "Hey, I'm willing to step in and do what I can on a film that I had no part
what
in
he's
making."
got to work with.
Yeah,
But what gets me is that Zack Snyder, not only does he want to be allowed to make his cut, which he said already existed, he just needed to edit it, but then he wanted to do reshoots. And I'm like, if your movie already exists, why do you need reshoots?
Yeah.
To
Bull
me,
crap.
that sounds like somebody who's saying, I know it was garbage, so if I can do some reshoots and fix it, I'll make a better Justice League.
Yeah.
And it's like, no.
no, you got to stick with what you had before,
Yeah.
especially considering that everything you had before was what you were already in post-production with.
Yeah.
So production was done and wrapped up. Yeah, you may have had some reshoots
You may have needed
here
some
and there,
reshoots,
but
yeah.
nothing to the
But the
scale of what-
reshoots were reshoots that Whedon did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
But the thing is he's thinking that, he's going off the idea that he would have possibly had reshoots even in post-production.
Well, and here's the
but
thing.
$33 million worth?
No.
What the story is that
No.
apparently Joss Whedon's reshoots were to help change the tone of the film a bit. Like he did some stuff to make it a little bit
Comedic.
more comedic
Yeah.
in some ways and a little bit more approachable, I think, because Zack Snyder always has that dark, broody, like, we're superheroes, but we hate ourselves.
And we hate the people we're saving.
Yeah.
That's what I got from
not
that
worth
movie.
saving.
Yeah, that's right.
but I'm going to do it anyway.
Or we never
Yeah.
see a damn soul that's in this film to even save.
But so apparently Zack Snyder wanted to be able to do his reshoots to salvage the tone he was going for, and it's like, well, the tone you were going for was garbage anyway. So
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing. For one, to clarify, this is what Snyder's put forward. I think it's kind of funny that he clamors up like, oh, we've got the Snyder cut. It's in there. We've got the Snyder cut. By the way, now that it's approved, I need some reshoots. It's like, well, then obviously it wasn't locked down to begin with.
Yeah.
But the studio has denied him any reshoots, so he's got to deal with what he already had, which it's probably going to be like a 4-hour-long director's cut. So be it. I don't care. It's going to be on HBO Max. Let it happen.
I'll watch it.
I'll watch it too.
I can't wait to see this train wreck.
Same here.
Yeah.
But it is funny because it's like, look, yet again, another instance of where the fans had outcry and they petitioned and they got it. So it's
Which
like
is fine. I mean,
I'm
good
fine
for
with
them.
that too.
But let's be honest. It's like if you petition for it and it's a garbage movie, be willing to admit it, because I think a lot of people are going to praise it no matter what because they don't want to be the ones that were
the
wrong.
only ones
Yeah.
who have petitioned for it are his loyalists. So of course they're going to praise it.
True.
Yeah.
Also
the
true.
only ones who want to see this are the ones who are going to praise it regardless. So it's like
But we're not going to.
No.
We just want to see it.
I'll
for the
praise it if it's
laughter.
Here's the thing, I'll praise it if it's actually good. I will eat my words and say I was wrong if it's
Yeah.
actually good, but I really do not believe it will be.
Well, to me, honestly, if it's good good, I'm going to say, well, yeah, anybody can take 8 years to make a movie and make it good. Mm-hmm. So then I'm going to just laugh at him because I'm going to be like, look.
It's actually just 8 years to edit the movie.
Yeah.
Make the movie. I mean, it's already made.
That's so true.
To redo some CGI.
Fix that mustache.
Yeah, maybe he'll fix
He's going to hire that kid from YouTube.
I hope he puts it back in there. I hope he just is like, you know what? It should have always been there.
Yeah. That's why he really wanted them reshoots, because he needs Henry Cavill to redo the
They need to hire that guy who did the After Effects video to fix it.
Yeah.
That's why he needs that money. No, I am looking forward to it just because, yes, it's another instance where fans got their say, but it is not proven that this is why. I mean, now, because you all brought it up earlier when we were talking about it, how many other films now are out there? You were talking about JJ. Everybody's wanting JJ to do a Rise of Skywalker.
You create a precedence for people getting what they want.
Yeah.
And every film we see is going to have a bunch of fanboys that are just outraged that they didn't get exactly what they wanted.
Yes.
Star Wars didn't end the way that I wanted it to, but I still give it to JJ for making do with what he had to work with after The Last Jedi.
Yeah.
And I know people will disagree with me because there's a lot of people that like that movie, unfortunately. But it's, again, like, we don't always have to be satisfied with the film. I don't like the way Game of Thrones ended either. But it's just like, I would have that redone if it was possible.
If possible, yeah.
But still, you don't always get what you want. And to have these people given the idea that all we got to do is throw a fit and get a petition going online and we'll get what we want.
Think about
it. It kind of started with Sonic, though, because people were like, look, we got Sonic changed. Now we're getting the Snyder cut. If we just petition, we can keep getting...
Well, here's the thing, though. This is actually kind of in correlation to what we were just talking about in terms of getting the artists to change their own work.
Yeah.
It's like, at the end of the day, do you have so much outside pressure socially because people have these social platforms to reach out and directly affect the artist? Yeah. It's like... Do we want artists to be artists, or do we want artists to only do and make what it is we like?
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of times it's like, yeah, there are times where crap is screwed up and I don't like it, but there's other times where experimentation pays off, and I actually prefer what ended up coming out of what was just an experiment.
Yeah, but with Zack Snyder, what's going to end up happening with him, he was done. It's like, okay, I made the movie, it was a fly, it didn't work, everybody hates it, blah, blah, blah. Then the fans start outcrying. And now Zack Snyder's jumped on their bandwagon.
Well, of course
you made the point. It wasn't him getting it started. They started it. Then he's like, oh, well,
they want my cut.
Yeah, I want to get that cut out there. And it almost gives him the ability to make a crappy film in the future, knowing, oh, well, all I got to do is, go back and fix it later.
Or say the studio made me do it.
Yeah, blame it on somebody other than yourself.
Well, and here's the thing. It's like with Sonic, though. I mean, people changed it.
Yeah.
I'm okay, though,
because
for the
better.
It was for the better. And so at the end of the day, if it is for the better, or it turns out to be for the better, and it actually gives not only the fans what they want, but the creator more of their vision that they were looking for, is it a bad thing? Or is that exactly at the root of what we're talking about with both instances?
For me, the difference is that the studio and the people involved knew they messed up with Sonic. When they saw that, like, that's bad.
Yeah.
With Zack Snyder, they're not admitting that Zack Snyder made a bad movie. They're just saying, oh, well, now we're going to let him make the version he wanted, and it'll be better.
Well, he's saying that. He's saying he didn't make a bad movie. That he made a better movie, and if it is a 4-hour cut, that's the way it should have been, because that was my vision.
Oh, God, is that how long it's going to be?
I'm guessing.
I
just want to be like, Zach, we've seen all your other movies. We know that you didn't.
It's like 300 was good. You should have quit there.
Because it was mindless action, which is all 300 was supposed to be.
That's all he's good at.
It was the first time we saw something that stylistic that was done in such a way that it captured. It was all it was supposed to be.
It was a graphic novel.
Exactly. And it was done in such a scale. I mean, to me, though...
But he had respect for the source material on that.
Yeah.
He's admitted he's not a fan of Superman, which makes sense. You made a crappy Superman movie. He's admitted that he doesn't read some of these comics, so it's like... Okay, well then why are you doing it?
But see, I think the source material is where Sonic went. That was okay. Because fans looked at Sonic and they're like, this doesn't look anything like Sonic. If you're going to make this character, make it at least true to the character in appearance. And I think that's where their gripe was. It wasn't in how the character was going to act in the film or anything like that. It was just the appearance.
The genesis of that argument was you had people who had made that design that fans wanted, and the studios were the ones that railed against it because they were the ones who stepped in and said, no, this needs to look more realistic. Whatever that is. So it's like you had... but
it's a cartoon character. How can you make it realistic?
I mean, but that is the constant back and forth we have in this industry, is when does art trump the money? When does art come over the finances of actually saying, no, I mean, obviously everybody wants a special brew. Everybody wants to be able to say, we made this film, it's popular, everybody loves it, and now we get financial success from it. But that's not always the case. Yeah. There's a lot of art house films that turn out to be junk, that are crap, and then they go on to make no money. And then there's a lot of indie flicks that never get noticed, but they're fantastic films. And we kind of hope that through weeding out on both sides, that you get more of one over the other, that you get the art house thrillers that end up becoming financially successful so they can make money. I mean, we've seen that success with all the Blumhouse films or Blumhouse films. But the thing is, I'm still, I don't know. I'm at the heart of it, just like with the controversy in the re-edits. If even when it comes to old classics and people who have passed on, it's like if you haven't gone to their estate and you haven't asked them if it's being done in the vein. Oh yeah. Because even a friend of mine had even asked. They were like, "Well, what about if they want to recolor black and white films?" And I'm like, again, if they're doing it with the justice of preserving the history and telling the story better and doing justice to the artist, I'm all for it. Especially if they go to the estate, and if there is nobody in the estate that is living that has power over that film, okay. Well, again, there's obviously a way of doing it to pay respect to the artist's creation and the artist's vision. I agree. There's times where artists can definitely get carried away, and you could I don't know one filmmaker who has not said they would want to go back and re-edit their film. Every single filmaker talks about how they want to go back and just...
That's not just filmmakers, it's everybody.
Everybody.
Your creation is you're never satisfied. As a creator, as a creator, when you make something, like even with Margaret, there's things about knowing now what I know, and like there's things that's like, man, if I could go back and change this and this and this, and it would make the story a little bit better. Yeah. And it's just how things are, because you think of things later that are like, that would have been perfect. And part of you has to resist that a little in some ways, like with George Lucas. And other times I can see how, like, if George Lucas had went back and like edited some things, and like with Phantom Menace, when he took the CGI Yoda and put it in Phantom Menace instead of that terrible puppet, that was a good edit. That actually made it more cohesive, and it looked good. Now, adding no to Darth Vader at the end when he throws the Emperor down, that was a stupid edit.
And it was just pointless, exactly. And that's the thing. Even as a filmmaker myself, I can attest to times where I've wanted to change things. But for the sake of saying sometimes, it is best to just let it go, say it is what it is. And honestly, even a film we made that was abysmally created back in our high school days, 26 years, the fact is I'm not remaking that. But what I love about it is that I can say what's done is done. I'm okay with what it is and what it was. It's time to move on.
Move on and do something better the next time.
Yes, I don't want to be an artist that sits there and is focused on just what I've created in the past. Let's create something new. Yeah. And I hope with this Snyder Cut being released in a year, it'll just be another one of those internet things where it's like, okay, the trolls won. Let them have their cut. Be done with it, and let's move on to something. Because look, the DCU, it's even come out, statements have said the DCEU is not going to change after this. It's done. They're moving on with the new roadmap, and that
as they should.
Exactly. It's such a better roadmap. We've already seen way better movies than Zack Snyder could have ever hoped of dreaming to make. So thank God that is done. We'll see it next May, and we'll have a whole special show on it.
You know we will.
Yes.
All right, guys. Are y'all ready for our Vices talk? Are y'all ready to get into our unique weekly segment?
Well, I think I could.
Let's do that. We all said it that time.
Yeah.
That was nice.
It's hard to resist.
Yeah. Out of all of them, that's the best.
Oh,
intro.
really?
Yeah.
Oh, you
I
like that
don't
one?
know. I like I think each
You like
one's the best.
multimedia?
Well, every time they air, I think they're the best. I'm like, I like that one.
That's a good one.
And then the next
that's
week,
better this week than it was last week.
You know, as the creator of those, I would like to go back and change them.
Really?
Just make them a little bit better.
Yeah.
I think I could just string out that that Vice is a little
Well,
longer.
as a fan, I'm against that unless you make it how I want it.
Well, if you all get me 2 signatures from you two stating, petitioning I change them,
Yeah.
maybe I will.
Okay.
All right. Our Vices talk this week is something that hits close to home. It hits, well, a little closer than I would like to.
I'm not really sure where he's going with this.
I hope we didn't change it.
Um,
You edit this?
I'm the creator.
Okay.
So the fact is that it's something that I find to be, well, difficult sometimes when I don't get it.
Mm.
And that is enough sleep.
Mm.
The fact is if you don't get enough sleep, well, you're screwed. You're screwed for the day. And
Wow.
I'm waiting.
Keith is looking at me like,
Yeah.
what is he talking about?
I'm sitting here like it's like we're gonna get to the point eventually.
Who's directing this? God.
I can't.
You know,
I need to take 2.
I was like,
I can't do
Man.
I'm gonna be honest. I
We
thought
start
this
over?
episode, the whole thing was going really great.
Yeah.
And it's
then I
kind of
ruined
like
it.
we
Yeah.
watched the wrong Missy earlier. It's kind of like the scene
like
where
spiraled.
she falls off the cliff. It
Yeah.
just went.
Yeah.
If you haven't seen the wrong Missy yet, do
Don't.
or don't. I don't know.
Don't.
It is
Yeah.
funny, but not for the right reasons.
Maybe Adam Sandler could like get hit on the head and go back and re-edit all his films,
Yeah.
and make them better because
Well,
they need a re-edit.
everything after the 90s, it's like in the 90s is when it started getting murky. So
Yeah.
like before then, he's fine. Afterwards, yeah.
I just think it's funny to see Uncut Gems as number 1, which is a good movie with him at the start as the star, and then you have like number 3 is The Wrong Missy.
Right.
It's like 2 very different movies.
Granted, he didn't
And-
direct that
No,
or
no.
star in it or write it.
But
even.
he did produce
But
it.
it's just like, yeah, he put his name on it.
I mean, it's just funny that we were talking back in December about Adam Sandler being an Oscar contender for that movie.
Yeah.
And then
we get this.
yeah, we get the
Right.
gosh.
So what was the Vices segment again?
Not getting enough sleep.
Yeah, well, it's
Well,
about
sleeping in.
Sleeping in.
Okay.
Yeah. Do you like to sleep in?
Absolutely.
Is can you sleep in?
Oh, yeah.
And how often do you get that chance?
Well, I imagine
You know?
it's easier for me and you to sleep in than Sean because Sean has children.
Yeah,
True.
but surprisingly, with the COVID and me not working right
Yeah.
now, Amelia gets up to work, and me and the kids both stay in bed until like 8:30.
Now, see if the,
Oh,
well, that's not
that's-
sleeping
see,
in.
you
That's
say
sleeping
8:30
into me because
sleeping,
I used to get up at 5.
Yeah.
So,
Well, that makes sense.
Yeah,
Yeah.
8:30
but if I
sleeping
could
in.
sleep later than that, like if they would stay in bed, I could
Yeah.
sleep into 10 or 11
I say about
easily.
That's me.
Average is about 9:30 for me is when I get up. Sleeping in is about 10:30.
Wow.
See,
Yeah.
well, here's the thing. My schedule right now is 3 p.m. to midnight. So I'm obviously coming home and I can't just go to bed.
No.
So it's like I got to wind down. And before I know it, I'm falling asleep at 2:30, 3 o'clock. But I'm not getting up till like 11.
Yeah.
And
Is
I
that really
hate-
sleeping in then?
It is to me only because it's like I still feel like
Well, I mean, if
even
you're
if
only
I get,
sleeping 8 hours, it's kind of not sleeping in.
it's
Yeah.
not. But here, okay, I will say there's been days where like even on my weekend days, where Mondays and Tuesdays, where it's like I can sleep in. I will try to go to bed because I'm just tired.
Yeah.
And it's like I'll go to bed and I'll sleep in till like noon, and I hate it because I hate feeling like I wasted the day.
Yeah, half the day, yeah.
And that's the thing is it's like it doesn't matter if I have a 3 p to midnight schedule. I still feel like if I get up that late, like 11,
Yeah.
I'm like, damn, I've already got half the day's gone.
Yeah.
When I
You know?
used to work like night shifts and stuff, sometimes I wouldn't get home till midnight or so. And if I slept in that late, I always was mad at myself. But I was like, I didn't really sleep like that long. It just
No, yeah.
and I mean, and I had like maybe about a month ago, I actually slept till like noon, 12:30. I don't know why. I just didn't wake up, and I was like, oh my gosh, it's
we all thought you were
12:30.
dead.
yeah.
And
That was like one of the days we were texting and we're like, is
And-
Keith okay?
Is he all
And
right?
I woke up and I'm
Send
like,
his dad over.
and I was pissed because I woke up and I was like, my whole day's gone. What the heck?
Yeah. Well, and I agree with you, Sean. It's not technically sleeping in, but I try if I can. It doesn't matter what time I go to bed. I like to get up at like 10. I want to get up at like 10 because at 10 is like the cutoff point for me to think, okay, I've salvaged enough of the morning
Yeah.
that I can wake up and then I'm at least up and active by noon. And so I'm not feeling groggy and I don't feel like I got to get going, start to my day. But, you know, I've pulled the early shifts before. I used to work in a machine shop where I got up at like 4:30 in the morning. So I've been there. I've done that. And I don't miss it.
Oh,
I
see,
don't miss it.
I like early.
You like
I like
waking
to
up
be
real
up
early?
before the sun's up and home before
sun goes down.
Right. Oh yeah. Well, I'd like to get up if I could work from 6 in the morning until 2 o'clock or something. I would love that.
See, I am more of
I
think a 9 to 5 person. I do like kind of like being up around 7 or 8, like being at work and then coming. Like I don't know. I'm not a super early person, but I'm also not someone who likes to be at work real late. So kind of like.
But here's the thing:
do
you make it a priority? Do you make it a priority of like, if you have to get up early, so like for work or so many string of days?
Oh, I don't go in bed any earlier.
But that's what I'm saying. Do you make it a
5
priority?
hours of sleep every night.
Every night.
That's
5
all I do.
hours?
5 hours. Yeah.
I don't go to bed
night?
till like.
Is your
I go to
body
bed at
just
about 2.
acclimated
I go to
to
bed
that?
at about 2, and then I get up at 8 or 8:30.
And you don't feel like any drag or like the next day?
No.
Like your body's just used to that.
In fact, I feel more like tired if I sleep longer.
Now that
Like if
I
I sleep a
have
lot-
had that happen. If I sleep, I've had it to where I've overslept too much.
Yeah.
Where I didn't get a whole lot of sleep, and then I finally crash, and I have a day where I just sleep all day, and I'll wake up at like literally 2 or 3 in the afternoon.
Yeah.
And that's terrible for me because then you wake up and I am groggy, and then I'm like, oh, I slept too much.
Oh yeah.
I've had that
those.
happen. But you don't feel any fatigue from sleeping in. Wow.
No.
That's crazy. 5 hours
I've
of
almost
sleep.
always, got 5 hours, unless we just decide to sleep late,
Yeah.
like on a Saturday or Sunday or
And
something.
what
we
do you
slept
see?
late.
Okay, so what do you consider? We were talking about how 8 hours isn't really sleeping
It'd
in.
be 8 hours.
But
for
isn't
me.
8 hours sleeping in for you then?
Yeah.
So
Wow.
it depends on what your body's used to.
Yeah.
So 5 hours is your normal, but 8 hours you consider to be like a. Do you feel fine or even more refreshed than sleeping 5 hours?
Oh, if I sleep 8.
Yeah.
If I sleep longer than 5, like usually, it's kind of weird, but my neck and back will hurt.
Okay.
I mean, it's, and I'll yawn all day long.
Yeah.
Like I don't understand. It's just like I'm more tired if I sleep longer,
was
and my
like,
body aches from laying in the bed that long.
I don't normally sleep a full 8, but I do. I would say like 6 or 7 ish for me. Like I mean, it's usually because I usually go to bed around 1 or 2, and then I get up around 9:30. So that's about 6 or 7. But yeah, 5 I don't think would be enough. I'd probably
See,
be
I
cranky by
used to
5.
be. I don't know if this is just because I got older. It used to be where if I got like 4 to 5 hours of sleep, I could only do it for like a string of days, like maybe 2 days max.
Yeah.
Before I'd need a real good night of sleep. But I could do it like 4 hours and I'd be fine. But if I did like 5 to 7, and I did that, I'd be groggy and I'd hate it, and I'd be on the wrong side of the bed.
I do have like the rare case, like if we used to do midnight premieres when they actually aired at midnight.
Yes.
Like it's like if I made sure I got like 2 or 3 hours, like if I
Then
got
I was
anything over
fine.
3, like it's like just that short little like nap, I was good for the rest of the day, but then I had to crash to that following night.
But if you got, but
As
thing,
long as
that
I
was
had
always
those
the
2 or
sweet
3, I
spot.
could get through the work or whatever the next day.
If I had just an inkling over 3, I would be
I
pissed.
felt like crap all day at work.
Yes.
Yeah, and I'd be like,
Yeah, I'd be mad.
Oh man.
Yeah.
So
Well,
that's
we
interesting.
did that. It's funny when we went to IKEA after the last election, and we stayed up watching. Well,
It's like
I mean,
Trump won. Let's go to IKEA.
Come on,
Let's go.
But
gay marriage is legal now.
right. But
me and him are gonna go get a new.
I stayed up
Dresser.
watching. I stayed up watching the election results, and Brandon wanted me to drive him to IKEA because I had a truck.
I did. I needed a dresser.
So yeah, I took like.
Economy's gonna be good now. I'm gonna go buy furniture.
It's like economy's on the upswing.
Here we go.
But yeah, I took like a 3-hour power nap. Got up. We went to IKEA the next day.
It was well, and it helped that I think we both had the day off.
We did.
So
yeah.
it was kind of one of those things where obviously we weren't skipping out on work to go to IKEA. I mean, that's the best hooky ever.
Yeah.
But the thing is like, yeah, it's like, I don't know, any more power napping, I can't power nap. I guess I'm getting to the point now where I'm so old. Oh, he's yawning right now.
Oh boy.
He's
I
already,
yawned.
he's getting to that.
I was thinking about napping. I was like, man, I take naps sometimes.
He's like,
And I
I'm gonna
started
take one
yawning.
right now.
I need to go right
I
now.
do take naps sometimes, and maybe that's part of the. But when I was working, I didn't, because I would get up at 5, but I wouldn't.
And
go
you're
to
going
bed.
nonstop.
I wouldn't go to bed till 12, and
Yeah.
then get up at 5 to go to work.
Yeah.
And I do that 5 days a week, and then Saturday I
Yeah.
sleep till 8 or 9, and then on Sunday, we sleep until about 8 or 8:30 because of church. But it's like I get those 2 days of a little bit extra sleep. But now maybe it's a little bit easier because like when my kids take a nap, usually I take a nap. So usually like me and Sawyer will be sitting on the couch watching
And
TV,
you'll both fall asleep?
and I'll doze off. He might not, but I'll doze off.
Yeah.
So, and that's maybe an hour to an hour and a half or something like that in the middle of the day. So it's nice.
Yeah.
But I have gotten used to that, and when work starts back up in
you
June,
won't be
it's
able
not
to.
going to be able to do that.
But here's the thing. I will say on the rare occasion I get to do that, I will too. But even those naps screw me up because then I don't feel tired later on
at night.
Actually, that's true. If I take a nap during the day, I stay up later at night.
Yes, because I've already had enough sleep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so I just, and I don't know what it is, but power naps recently have made me feel more groggy. Like I said, I don't know if it's just me getting older, and I just can't do that, and I just need a full night's sleep.
Our good buddy Jacob just said he gets 5 to 6 hours a night, and he cannot nap at all.
There you go.
He's
He's up and on the go then from 5-6 hours of sleep all day.
Yeah.
Wow. That surprises me. I mean, I think it was like a new study that came, which studies change all the time. It's like for 10 years they have a longevity. But it's like, I think there was a study recently in the last like 3 to 4 years that was talking about how I think it was no longer 8 hours of sleep. It was like 6.
Yeah.
Yep.
It was like 6 hours of sleep was all you needed.
Actually seems normal for me. Not quite the 5, but 6, that sounds about right for me. Yeah.
Wow. All right. That's insane. That's crazy.
It depends on what you do, too.
Yeah.
You know,
True.
If you work construction and you're using your body
More
physically,
energy,
I can understand you needing more sleep to recuperate from that. But it's kind of like if your work is more mentally fatiguing,
then you need like 12.
Then
because
maybe I don't know. I'm just wondering.
Sometimes
if,
I
like,
think
you're sitting at a
maybe.
computer all day, maybe less sleep isn't that isn't that bad. But to me, like your sleep is more for your body than for your mind. And I feel like if I work real hard, like today, I was doing a lot of landscaping and stuff. I guarantee you tonight when I go to bed,
crash.
I will be out.
Yeah.
But any other night,
Now,
I'd be
I will
staying
say,
up and playing
anytime I'm
PlayStation.
physically exerting myself, absolutely.
Oh,
But
yeah.
to me, it's the same. I feel it is the same with my mind. Like, I can get through a long edit session if I'm just sitting there editing a project, and I'll edit for like 12, 14 hours straight. But after that 14 hours or so is up, I'm dead. And I just want to either it's one of two things. That's why I said I can do like a string of 2 days. It's like I get done with that 14 hours, I can take a small break and then come back to it. But man, once I get done with that session or get to the stopping point of where I want to be, I crash and I'm out for like another 12 hours. I just can't do it. But I think, I don't know, mentally, I think it can be just as taxing and like your mind needs a break. And I've even had it to where there's times where I've taken not naps or I've not gotten enough sleep, and I can tell my mind is like shot, and I'm just not thinking, like I'm not lucid at all. I'm barely making it through the day if I've not had enough sleep, and that's when I know I need to crash. So
I've definitely had those moments where like just it's almost like everything is just like backwards. Like you're trying to think of something and I tend to, like when I talk anyways, a lot of times like I'll have it in my mind what I want to say, and then I'm talking so fast that it doesn't come out right anyway. So like when I don't sleep, I was like when I don't sleep, like it's 10 times worse.
Yes.
I'm just like speaking gibberish, and I'm like, I know what I'm trying to say.
If I haven't got enough, I'll be irritable.
Yeah.
Like I'll be angry. Just like with food. If I don't get enough food, I'll get
You
mad.
get hangry.
Yeah.
So what is it when like tired or is it like tangry, sangry? I don't know. There's not a good one.
Slangry? I don't even know.
Yeah.
I do know, like, to me,
Slangry.
if I slept till 10, that would really, like, bother me because I like breakfast. And to me, 10 o'clock, you're not eating breakfast no more.
Well,
if you haven't ate
honestly,
it by 10, that's kind of my rule. I eat breakfast before
But 10's
10
definitely
a.m.
not
every day.
lunch. That's like too early for lunch.
It's
so-
a brunch.
Right,
Yeah,
but I'm
brunch.
just saying,
Yeah.
if you don't get your breakfast in by 10, then you're just not getting any breakfast.
Actually, you
just
do
wait.
raise a good point.
I think that's about fair though, because I kind of agree.
That's
like,
why I like to get up at earlier because it's like then I get breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Well, here's the thing.
I like that
I'll
food.
eat breakfast at 10, but it's like a Pop-Tart. It's not an actual breakfast.
Yeah.
If I were to eat a hearty breakfast every morning and I was waking up at 8 or 9, I bet you I would feel comfortable getting up at 8 or 9 and starting the day. If I had because that's the thing. I mean, you go back to old farm living. It's like they ate those huge heavy breakfasts for the rest of the day, but it got them through that day.
Yeah.
And I feel like if I did wake up at that time, I'd have to have some kind of hearty breakfast
See, my problem
to get me going.
is that I don't like I fight waking up. Like I
I
have
do
to
too.
set multiple alarms because sometimes I'll hit like snooze or off, So it's like if I don't do that one, and sometimes I'll be like, I'll ignore it, and I'll get up in a few minutes, and I'll fall back to sleep.
We are
having
getting
ignored
so
it.
many comments about the sleep.
Oh,
yeah,
man.
yeah.
Well, let's
Like,
read
I mean,
some.
yeah,
I'm
you
just
gotta-
saying it's like Megan says she got to get 9. Neil
Nine.
says
Oh,
7.5.
whoa.
Gosh, woo.
7.5 to 8. He's very, sets his alarm to make sure that he gets that amount of sleep. And he's just baffled by how anybody can go on 5 or 6
On 5 or
hours
6.
sleep.
I am too.
Yeah.
I am too.
My best alarm clock is my dog. See, I won't get up for my phone unless I set like a bunch of alarms. But my newest dog, Ellie the pug, she has like clockwork. She has to use the bathroom around 9 or 9:30, and
So
that's
you get up.
So no, well, she wakes me up. She like
okay.
she like hits
Yeah.
me in the face with her paws, like come
Like,
on,
I gotta go.
So then like I get up and let her out, and it's actually recently starting to become a routine where I'm like, actually, this is good. Like, good job that you.
Well,
yeah.
Usually,
and I have noticed
usually
that.
you put your dog in a routine. My dog is putting me in a routine.
I was gonna say, but honestly, that is the best thing
Yeah.
for your body as you get into a routine.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
for me, it's like, it's like if my hours change, it's gonna be hard for me to break the habit of then being up late because I've been used to it now for a few months.
I'll
So
tell
it's
you,
probably gonna take another few months for me to get used
a
to
really
another
weird
routine.
thing for me is I will not sleep at all if I'm going fishing the next morning.
Oh, your anticipation.
All night long, I'll lay awake and I think, okay, when I get there, I'm gonna get there at this time. We're gonna go to this spot. I'm gonna use this bait here. Then we're gonna, after about an
He's
hour, we're gonna
planning
roll.
it.
Oh yeah, I cannot. Like fishing is heaven for me. So it's just
man.
like I will lay awake all night. If my dad's gonna be at our house at 4:30 in the morning to pick me up to go fishing, like
You're just up anyway.
I'm already awake. I cannot sleep at all.
Wow.
Can
Because I love it
briefly
so
make
much.
a response to Neil here? He said that he had advice for me, and I want to respond to it because he said you have to set your alarm on your phone and set it at like the opposite end of the room, so like you
have to get it
because
up.
Yeah.
I've heard that before. It doesn't work. Let me
No,
tell you why.
You let it go. You let the alarm go. I bet.
Not only do I let it go, I once had an alarm clock that was like, I crawled to the end of my bed and did that little like when you drop the remote and you hang off the bed. I hung off my bed till I could reach the dresser and smack the alarm. Then crawled back up to the top of my bed and went back. So putting it at the other end of the room doesn't
work.
matter.
It doesn't work.
I did, and it's
Yeah.
like, and you would think the effort of having to crawl to the end of the bed, reach as far as I could, like holding one arm on the floor and smacking it, would wake you up. But after I hit it, I was like, I'm
Oh,
getting
my
back.
parents have done that too. They bought me this alarm clock when I was in college that had like a little laser pointer, and you
Yeah.
had to hit this target in order for the thing to go off. But all I did was just set the laser right next to it. So I would just crawl out of bed, point it at it, hit it, and then go back to bed.
I've actually,
And I would sleep
Wow.
for another 10, 15
Brandon's
minutes.
right. There's times where I've just let it go. There are times I'll be dreaming and I'll hear something in my dream and it'll drive me crazy. And I'll be in my dream like, where's the sound? I got to get rid of it. Like pissed because I can hear it.
It's your alarm.
And
Yeah.
finally I'll wake up like 5 minutes after my
Gosh.
alarm's been going off like, crap, that's been my alarm.
Next thing you
and
know,
I'll be
he's-
so angry in my dream because I cannot find the
Yeah.
sound to get rid
Your
of it.
Next
dream,
thing
you're
you
just
know-
like, Elvis, what is that? Is that you? What are you doing?
then he's woken up,
He's like,
forgot his
"Oh."
dream, and then he pissed himself.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. All right.
All right, guys. Well, keep
That
it
was a good one.
coming. That was a good Vices segment, but obviously everybody varies. Everybody enjoys sleep. It is definitely important to get enough of it. Not like that's supposed to be like
Yeah.
a PSA or something. I mean, get plenty of sleep. Eat your Cheerios.
Eat your something Cheerios.
Wheaties.
Veggies. Eat your veggies.
Eat your veggies. And go to bed on time, damn it.
So I always heard that the people who sleep less are usually more creative and more brilliant.
I believe
Because
that's
their
true.
mind is working more that they don't need to sleep. But
True.
in my case, I don't know.
No, I was gonna say
Pretty dumb.
I don't
but
know.
I don't
There was
really care
somebody
about
on
sleep.
YouTube that I actually I saw they did something like they took on I think Leonardo da Vinci's sleep schedule because it was that sporadic where he would take just bursts of naps, but his naps would get shorter throughout the day, and he did it for like a string for like a month, and he tried to keep up his normal workload, his normal schedule, and do the things that Leonardo da Vinci did. And it was like he came to the conclusion that it was not for him, that Leonardo da Vinci was a madman.
He probably was,
He
in a
probably
good
was.
way, though.
But the thing is I think it showcases that from Leonardo da Vinci through all the way up to, hell, you could say Steve Jobs or whoever, It's like you have these geniuses, but all of them have their own patterns. All of them have their own ways of life. It's like everyone. That's why I always find it ridiculous, these news stories of like, you lived to 102.
Yeah.
What was it? And it's like, well, I had sex every day of my life. You know, it's like, I'm pretty sure
my
that
favorite
wasn't it.
is my favorite
die
was,
tomorrow.
My favorite was the 111-year-old veteran who said he smoked a cigar and drank bourbon every day, and I'm like, damn
well,
right,
yeah.
damn right.
And who isn't going to go find that one person that does what they want to do and say, well, I'm going to live till then?
It's like he's 111 and he smokes cigars and drinks bourbon every day, so I'm good.
Let's just say, look, it's a total crapshoot, okay? It's a total
Burgess Meredith said he
crapshoot.
ate like 15 pieces of bacon or something every day.
He didn't live that long, though.
Yeah, he did.
Did he?
Oh, yeah, man. He was old as hell.
I don't know how old he was.
I mean, he did live. I thought in his 90s.
Oh,
I was thinking
God,
like
yeah.
past 100.
I'm just saying, hey, if I can
But
get
still,
to 90,
90 is
I'll
good.
be happy.
I would
You're
say
right.
90's fine with me.
Yeah.
That's fine
Heck
with me.
yeah.
I'm sure I'll have seen enough of the world by then.
Mm-hmm.
Just like people have probably seen enough of us this episode.
I think so.
So I think it's time to wrap
We're
it
running
up.
over.
That's right, guys. Email us right there at the bottom of your screen, rmpodcast@redmoonproductions.com. It's right there, guys.
It sounds good when you say it.
It's on the wide shot now.
What?
You see it? Yeah.
The wide shot?
That wide shot.
Wow.
Just looking at all our viewers.
Mm.
Now we're thinking them.
What about that studio shot?
That
up
studio shot?
there? You get it up there?
There it is.
Oh.
Oh, right at the bottom.
Yeah.
Sean, you can even point to it.
Where? Like
It's like right on you.
over here?
Oh my gosh. You're
poke it?
kind. It's like meteorology.
Don't poke it, Sean.
Oh, he's squeezing.
I can't see the green. It's going to shift this way and it's going to come under and do that.
What?
No?
No,
I
Yeah.
can't see it, so I don't know.
Okay, all right. Well, that's going to do it for this episode. Just email us right there at the bottom of your screen. Until next time, I am one of your hosts, Brandon Davidson, alongside our normal new host,
Sean Sebastian.
and
Keith Cheatham.
so next time we'll see you at the movies.
Well, we still have one more drive-in.
See you at the drive-in.
See you at the drive-in.
We hope you enjoyed this week's episode. For more reviews, previous podcast shows, and everything Red Moon, visit our website, redmoonproductions.com. You can also like us on Facebook or follow us on Twitter by searching for Red Moon Productions, LLC. We'll see you at the movies.